Now that we have briefly looked at the first 40 pieces out of the 281 pieces that I've identified in the ultimate schematic, let's go on and look at the next 5 pieces, which would be pieces 41 to 45. That's where we have 3 ways to correct 5 mistakes and 2 forms of consequences. There is the knowledge of the consequences and there is the experience of the consequences. Remember, that's the most important piece of the puzzle. And what we want to do, as I mentioned before, is complete the positive knowledge loop and make the 41-45 connection. 41 is the only one of 3 ways to correct 5 mistakes that enough of us are going to be willing to do so we can get everyone's attention and reach the tipping point. Remember, things will never change unless we reach the tipping point. So everyone who understands that we're making these mistakes and wants us to accomplish in the end to correct these 5 mistakes, we must understand that most people aren't willing to do what we have to take. Or most of us aren't willing to do what we got to do. And that would be piece 43, where we actually correct these 5 main mistakes. Remember, the 5 main mistakes have to do with 5 things we mastered. First thing we mastered is fire. I've only alluded to that one time so far, and I've been vague about it for a reason. Second thing we mastered were animals, then plants, then machines, then chemicals. So how do we correct those 5 mistakes? Well, we don't apply fire to our food. We don't cook our food. We don't eat animals we're not biologically adapted to eat. We don't eat plants we're not biologically adapted to eat. We don't process our foods, and we don't use chemicals in any way. We don't grow our food on artificial fertilizers, spray them with pesticides, use artificial fertilizers, the GMOs, everything else that goes with it. And a lot of people are doing that, and they're seeing great results, but the problem with that approach is that we'll never reach the tipping point if that's the way we go. Not enough of us are willing to do that so we can get everyone's attention. Now, what used to be the best preparation for a better way of life was piece 42. And that's a water fast. That corrects these 5 mistakes. Best way to stop eating the wrong food, stop eating it all. However, most people are afraid to death of water fasting. They don't know anything about it, and they're not willing to do that either. Not to mention the fact that water fasting can be quite dangerous nowadays because of the 5th thing we mastered. That's the chemical revolution. There are so many chemicals in our environment that are now inside of us that if we don't have the proper nutrients like glutathione, we cannot complete a 2-phase process where our liver neutralizes and eliminates the toxins that we get from the environment. So we don't get that nutrient. We don't get any glutathione when we do a water fast. So our liver can't process these toxins that don't belong inside of us. That's why what we need to do is modify what used to be the best preparation for a better way of life. That's where we take piece 9A. Remember that brilliant brain of ours? That's what allowed us to master 5 things we never mastered before. And we're going to take the 4th thing we mastered, that's piece 39, and we're going to use that to modify a water fast. And that's called a juice fast. Or I like to put a positive spin, I'll call it a juice feast, or it's just a juice diet or a solid food vacation. It's a way of correcting these 5 main mistakes, and it's only on a temporary basis so we can see what we're missing. And the great thing about doing a juice fast or a juice feast or a juice diet or a solid food vacation where we pound down a bunch of juice inside of us is that we see results about 10 times faster. We're not hungry. Our energy level skyrockets. And we see big improvements, and that's what gives us the big motivation. It wasn't but maybe a decade ago or so when I saw Dr. Dean Ornish on PBS, where he was explaining how our whole concept of change itself has changed, where we no longer think the baby step approach is the right way. Because he's found out that when you take a bigger approach, you get bigger results, and that's bigger motivation. But we can take Dean Ornish's program and even make it more aggressive and see even bigger results, and that's what I'm talking about with the very first of my 3-step process. And the great thing about it is that it's been done before, and we did really well within 1 year. We got up to 14 million people. Of course, that's not going to reach the tipping point. That's not 10% of the population. And plus, YouTube was not available back then. So now we have better media. We have a better way of communicating this information, and we got to join the hero's journey. We got to take the first step of my 3-step process and test an idea as time has come, so we can accept the mission and find out that this really is the ultimate solution for most of our problems. And remember, there's 2 groups of needs we must satisfy. So this only corrects these 5 mistakes, which has to do with the first group of needs. So a big complaint people have is, well, we can't go to this raw vegan diet, piece 43, an organic raw vegan diet, because it doesn't satisfy all of our needs. And I say, you're right. That's our ideal diet in an ideal world, but we no longer live in an ideal world. Remember, there's a ripple effect. We've damaged ourselves, society, and the environment. Now we have another group of needs we must satisfy. We have subsequent causes that don't go away just because we remove the primary causes and get rid of and correct these 5 main mistakes. So this is something that takes a little bit of thought process to understand. You got to think about this for a while. and realize, well, why do we have these other group of needs? I've explained this before about a person who smokes cigarettes all the time, and they damage their lungs, and they still need pure air, but now they might need pure oxygen. The fact that they have another group of needs based on the art, based on the ripple effect, based on the damage we've done, and now they have a need for pure air does not negate the fact they still need pure oxygen. So if we've damaged ourselves and we're not able to make certain level 2 nutrients, then we might need to support our body and provide those nutrients, whether it's insulin or thyroxine or DHA or B12 or vitamin D or taurine or even cholesterol. My God, cholesterol is a precursor to all of our hormones. So if our liver is compromised and we're not making cholesterol, we're really in bad shape. But you always got to go back to the first cause and realize that there's a ripple effect. And so when you satisfy the 12 essential needs, which includes correcting these 5 mistakes, you're removing primary causes. But then there's the art of solving problems, and that's where we have to do damage control based on everything else. And it's not just what we've done to our body; it's what we've done to our society. Remember, we live in a sick world where the sickest of us are controlling the masses. And the only way to defeat this aspect of them is to realize that they're part of us. They're a reflection of us. I explained this before when I go into the common links and common flaws between the Zeitgeist movement, the Thrive movement, and conspiracy theorists. They all see that there's a fox guard in the hen house, and we don't want to spend too much attention to them, but we don't want to ignore them either. Yes, revolution comes from not focusing all of our attention attacking what's attacking us. We have to find a zeal enough, but we also have to realize that it doesn't go down to 0%. We still have to devote some attention and work downstream and deal with damage control. So one of the first things we have to do is take away the absolute tool of control of these people, and that's money. That's piece 7.2 and 34.2. It's a subsequent need because we're disconnected because we have hypoheliosis, and it's one of the 6 subsequent needs that are also problems of knowledge. And money is a tool that's used to control us, and we're all debt slaves right now, and very few people truly understand how abundant this planet is. We've been tricked into thinking there's a scarcity, and that's one of the biggest tricks of all. Remember, the people who rule the world are con artists. They're psychopaths. They're con artists. They're masters of illusion. They're magicians. They're masters of misdirection. It's all about keeping us distracted. And there's a very simple solution to all of this. We don't even want to focus on piece number 3 exclusively and say this is what we got to do. Yes, we have to do that downstream damage control, but we got to also go upstream. So some of you guys are good at the damage control, fine, but when the others of us go upstream to realize that, hey, to make this whole thing work, we got to figure out why we have these problems. And it turns out that the psychopaths who rule the world are a reflection of us. Remember, our behavior can be put on a bell-shaped curve, just like our IQ can be put in a bell-shaped curve, where we have 2% people above 130 and are geniuses, and 2% that are below 80 and are mentally challenged. The rest of us are in the middle of the bell. Well, if we don't like what we got on the edge of the bell, we can't cut off the edges of the bell. We got saints on one end and we got psychopaths on the other. Well, it doesn't do any good to go, oh my God, look at the edge of the bell, it's got psychopaths. Well, the only way to get rid of those is to realize that we ultimately all have to change. We got to change the center of the bell. That's why we all play a role when it comes to solving problems that are 100% within our control. Yes, we have to do damage control. Yes, we gotta take away the tools they're using to control us, which includes the economic system the way it is, based on debt-based currency instead of debt-free currency. But ultimately, we got to discard that completely, because once money doesn't exist, then there's nothing can be used to control other systems that are then controlled to use us. Right now, we're very easily controlled because of money, and we have to work downstream. Do what Germany and Japan did, which got them in trouble, and all the powers of be attacked them and go, oh, look, they're bad, look what they're doing. And it turns out they just broke away from this money system. And they proved to the world that when we don't let the richest of us siphon off all of our profits, there's so much abundance, it's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. We should not have to work more than 3 hours a week collectively to do what we need to do to provide our basic needs. And then what would the rest of us be doing? We'd be spending our day making everything around us better. Why? Because we don't have hypoheliosis anymore. We feel connected to everything around us, and now we know that's the only way we can make our lives better, is by making everything around us better. It's a very simple concept that's difficult to comprehend because it doesn't exist now, but once it happens, we don't have to think about it any more than I have to think about blocking out that sun that's shining in my face right now, or listening to the birds in the background. or feeling the breeze on my skin, or smelling the honeysuckles over here. Our sixth sense is not something we have to think about, and that's the beauty about this message, is we don't have to worry about people who have a difficult time understanding what we're talking about. If they just do this, if we can get them to do it, they'll feel the connection, and then it's an automatic. We'll understand the more I give, the more I receive, because everyone will be doing it. Think of what the potential would be on this planet if we all shared everything we did. It's mind-boggling. There'd be so much abundance that we would, as the guardians of this planet, we would turn this place into a paradise. It'd be unbelievable landscape everywhere. That's what we'd be doing all day long. Other people who were gifted in other areas, they'd be entertaining us or whatever. And as far as education, we'd be teaching everybody all the time. Every little 5 or 6 year old child would have already gone to where they wanted to be to learn what appealed to them. And by 5 or 6 years of age, they'll know everything they need to know to continue on for the rest of their life, because it's not that complicated once you understand how to interact with our environment the right way. We're not doing that. We're not interacting with our environment the right way. We're making poor lifestyle choices. We're making bad applications. And that's why we have so many problems. Most of us are doing things that we think are okay and they're not okay. And we have way too many references that support this belief system. So there's only one way to challenge all these belief systems. And that is to test an idea as time has come. That's where the first of this 3-step process comes into play. That's where we do piece 41. And when we do that, we will go from having the knowledge of the consequences, piece 44, which is what I've been trying to do in this video series, to the experience of the consequences, which is piece 45, which is what happens when you take the first step or the second step or the third step. But the problem with the second step is that, yes, it's 3 times faster than the first step. The first step is 10 times faster than the third step. So a lot of people are saying, hey, let's do the third step, let's eat a raw vegan diet. But then we can do that 10 times faster on a juice fast. And then a water fast is 3 times faster than that, but for every day you water fast, you need 1 day to recuperate, so it's really not the same thing. We don't quite get a 3-time effect. It's more like a 2-time effect. But nonetheless, it doesn't allow us to maintain any type of existence. When you do a water fast, you have to take a vacation from life, and that's just not doable by enough of us. Most of us don't have that luxury to take a vacation from our financial responsibilities and our family responsibilities. Whereas if we modify that water fast and do a juice fast or a juice feast, we can do this while we're working, and actually our performance will be better. And even if we have to get up an hour earlier to make all this happen, we'll be so much more productive and have so much more energy throughout this process that it's more than a fair trade. Sienna, don't go wandering off. Come back here. Good girl. So yes, we can do the first of my 3-step process and have that experience of the consequences, and then you'll finally be in a position to challenge all those old references. This is what we're all up against. None of us are in a position to evaluate what we're doing and what we need to do because we don't know what we're missing. In fact, most of us are in no position at all, or we're not qualified to even have an opinion on this. And yet we all know what people say about opinions and body parts, how everyone has one. What I'm talking about, my friend, in this video series is extremely profound. It's extremely simple, but many times we don't have this knowledge. And to have an epiphany, you got to have the knowledge, you got to contemplate it on it. I know for some of you, all I'm doing is giving you the knowledge now. You haven't even had a chance to contemplate on it. That's why you have to listen to this over and over and over, and then maybe you'll catch it, you'll figure out what I'm saying in a day or two, or a year or two, who knows. But it doesn't happen unless you can see what you're missing. That's why we have to have a brand new reference. You can choose any one of these 3 steps, 41, 42, or 43, but I'm going to tell you right now, the easiest way to do it, and the only way that's going to work to get enough people's attention, is piece 41. Why do I say that? Because everyone knows about juicing. And it's not a big step to say, okay, I'm going to drink nothing but juice. And I've done this over 1,100 days in the last 23 years on 138 different occasions. I document every bit of it, everything coming in, everything going out. And I'm telling you, when you document everything that's coming out of you and you see the filth that comes out of you, it's not hard to understand why we suffer as a species. Remember that I coined 2 conditions that come from making these mistakes: hypoheliosis and hypercolonic tension. The hypercolonic tension is that filth I'm talking about that's going to come out of you when you drink nothing but juices. Within 1 week, you have a light bulb moment. Why? Because you're still pooping. Within 3 months, you'll have an aha moment. Why? Because virtually every problem you had went away, and that's where you realize that all those systems that were trying to solve your problems were never going to be able to solve your problems because they hadn't yet, and they never will, because you know now that all those problems lie within you. All of our problems lie within each and every one of us. Yes, we're the enemy because we're doing it to ourselves and we're preying upon ourselves, but we're also the ones that we've been waiting for. We can be the heroes because by definition, and I've said it again, I'm going to bore you one more time. A hero is someone who can solve a problem, our problems that no one else can solve. Well, if most of our problems are self-inflicted, who is the hero? Well, go run in the kitchen and look in our bathroom and look in the mirror, and there you go. There's the hero. It's you. And it begins by simply testing an idea as time has come. Simply do the first of my 3-step process. And when you do 41, you'll complete the positive knowledge loop. When you do 41, you correct the 5 main mistakes. That's 75 to 79. The 5 main mistakes are 95 to 99. And if you get 95 to 99, you get 103, a problem within your control. But if we do 75 to 79, we get 101. Hey, now we're going back to paradise, which is a place where we don't have problems within our control. This is where we have unlimited potential. And then there's that ripple effect where effects become causes. That's in the causal loop, that's 113. And effects become knowledge, as in the knowledge loop, that's 114. It's the 114 that becomes the 45. And so what we need to do is get rid of piece 54.5. That means we have to be willing to test an idea as time has come. Then we take the first of my 3-step process, or you can take the 2nd step or the 3rd step. I don't care. Just take one of these steps. But if you want to make it easy on yourself, do the juice feast or the juice fast, the juice diet. And within a very short period of time, you'll have a brand new reference that will challenge everything that you thought was true in your past. Now, in addition to de-indoctrination or detoxification, we got to do de-indoctrination. It's very hard to filter out all that false knowledge that we superimpose into our belief system. Remember, our belief system can be illustrated in the first stage of knowledge, where knowledge is acquired. We have Einstein's circle of known in the plus A box of knowledge, with a circle inside of it representing the knowledge we have. And then there's a circle outside that circle, which is piece number 1, has a dotted line. That represents knowledge that used to be inside our circle, but we lost it. And it has to do with 5 false beliefs. Now I'm getting into the next 5 steps. These are pieces 46 to 50. So pieces 36 to 40 are the 5 things we mastered. Pieces 46 to 50 are now in the negative A box of false knowledge. And this is our false beliefs, thinking that what we're doing is okay. What's piece 46? It's a false belief that cooking food is something that's good. In fact, I find it quite ironic that the fall of mankind is referred to by the rest of us as an art. That shows you how sick we are and how much in denial we are. We call the number 1 sin, or the original sin, the fall of mankind, an art, not realizing that it's a sin, meaning it's a mistake. It alters our food on every level. And I'm only sharing one of the main things it alters. It destroys 100% those biophotons. The 5th mistake, the chemicals, destroys them by 83%. So organic food has 5 times the biophotons as does conventional food. Once again, the owners of the world are masters of illusion. They're magicians. It's magic. Look, I'm going to grow your food with these fancy chemicals, NPK, 3 minerals. Hey, we need 92 minerals in there, don't we? Some of them don't need all of them, but still, shouldn't all those minerals be in there? No, we just need these 3, and then it's magic. It looks like food, but it's not food because it has 83% less of the biophotons we need that can help us understand that we're all one. And then if we had that mentality, no one would join what's called a Progerian class and join the police force and an army and be part of the cog in the wheel that's keeping us where we are. Remember, it's our collective shadow that's keeping us where we are. All of us have a shadow. All of us have a selective memory. And Carl Jung called that our shadow. It's those unwanted aspects of our lives that we don't want to remember because we'd go crazy otherwise. That's what denial is. It's a defense mechanism, so we literally don't go crazy. So we run to denial to protect our pleasures, but we run to denial to deny the fact that we have a sick society where psychopaths are running the asylum. So this is an important piece of the puzzle to understand. And the only way to defeat that piece of the puzzle is to realize they're a reflection of us. We all play a role. We all got to change. And we can't get the masses to do that unless we reach the tipping point. All we have to do is do the first of my 3-step process and share your experience. It's one thing to accept the mission, the 2nd stage of the hero's journey, but then you have to go out and gather allies and deal with all the naysayers, the obstacles, the people who don't understand this. They're not in the first wave, or for whatever reason they're psychopaths or useful idiots that are part of this resistance to keep this message from surfacing. So if they're not part of that, then it doesn't matter. the point here is to go to the next stage, and that's where we share the message. So yes, you got to have the ears to hear the message. Yes, you have to accept the mission and test it out and prove it to yourself. Yes, you have to gather allies, and you're going to have to deal with these people, whether they know what they're doing, if they're useful idiots, or they're shields, or if they just aren't ready and it threatens what they're doing. Whatever the reason, that's part of the struggle we go through while we share our message. Don't let them deflate your enthusiasm. It's one of the main reasons why this message isn't getting out, because when people do this, they get real excited and they share it, and then they run into these people that just burst your bubble. Don't let that happen. We have to be strong and continue on the hero's journey and share this message. So I want to emphasize how important my message is, and that has nothing to do with me personally. I'm offering all my information for free. I have a seminar that explains all of it. I'm going to soon have a website that will have all these pieces to the puzzle. So if you want more details, fine. You can look at my 6-box system, the ultimate schematic. You can see where all the pieces are. You'll have a list of what all the pieces mean. You'll have files that back up those pieces. If we take piece number 3, the dark side of our behavior, I've got to update that section. I have at least over 300 files. Some of them are over 1,000 pages. A lot of them are 700, 800 pages. And then you can look at the details for yourself. But don't get tricked into looking for logical fallacies before you first look for the invalid structures. To make all this knowledge easier to accept, what we have to do is exclude the impossible, like Sherlock Holmes would do. When we use my 6-box system to realize that all the systems in charge in 106 and 105 are guilty of modus ponens, or putting the cart before the horse for a problem that's within our control, we eliminate those, and with them we eliminate all the objections that go with it, saying that what I'm saying is true. And there's nothing I can really say to help convince you that what I'm saying is true, except you can test an idea as time has come. So once again, it's time to test an idea as time has come, and when you do, you know what I'm going to say. Yes, sir, that's right. You guys are in for a treat.